Hello, everyone. Welcome to Much Ado About LGBTQ. We have changed our name from Queercast to Much Ado About LGBTQ, mostly because we're all Shakespeare nerds and we did meet over a wonderful project on Twitter. But mostly we changed our name because there are already multiple podcasts and shows online that are called Queercast, and we didn't want to be confused. And also, we didn't just want to run into someone's brand like that. Therefore, we are now found at Much Ado About LGBTQ, and we're recording the second episode today. We're going to be talking about homophobia and things that might not be that great. So, if you are uncomfortable with any of these things, please think about yourself first and don't listen. We won't be judgy or anything. I'm going to be your moderator for today. My name is Jane. I'm 20, she, her. And the next one to introduce yourself may be AJ. Go on, take it away.
Hi, I'm AJ. I go by they, them pronouns. I'm pansexual and gender fluid.
All right, thank you. The next one is Taryn. How about you?
Hi there. My name is Taryn. I'm 26. I use she, her pronouns. And rather than a specific sexuality, I'd say I'm a 5 on the Kinsey scale.
All right, thank you very much. And then last but definitely not least, Lou.
Hi, I'm Lou. I also use she, her. I am pansexual and I'm also 20.
All right, so we're going to be talking a little bit about a kind of harder topic today, which I already said. But homophobia is a thing that a lot of us struggle with daily. Some of us are lucky enough to not struggle with it daily. But I was just gonna ask around the room which one of you guys has the feeling that they experience homophobia quite a lot, even if it's just like, even if you're not out, sometimes people still think they can just tell you things that they think. So I think, AJ, if you want to start talking about your experiences, if you're comfortable with it, that'd be very great.
To start off, I think I should mention I'm not entirely out to everyone I encounter daily, so that might be an issue as well. I do wear bracelets with rainbows on them and stuff, and they're pretty obvious if you know, but if you don't know, it doesn't change much. They get mistaken for festival bracelets a lot. And my workplace is usually pretty open and accepting, and we do have some queer employees alongside me, of course. But I've been definitely like correcting people about stuff they say that isn't. I don't like politically correct the term because it has such a bad ring to it because people used it in a different way than it was intended to. But it's I hear a lot of stuff, just customers talking not that kind, or sometimes even coworkers. So there's definitely still an issue.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing, especially because you work in retail, so you get a lot of dumbasses every day. How about Lou? What about your kind of experiences with it?
Well, I'm sort of blessed in a way that I don't necessarily have that much direct experience with any form of homophobia, unless you count like the ever-present weird stares when I dare to hold my when I dared to hold my ex-girlfriend's hand in public, or when I dared to give her a kiss on the cheek. So yeah, that was a thing. You'd always get like, I distinctly remember just this one time where this one old guy who we didn't even talk to just walked past us and just muttered "ugh" under his breath, and I was like, okay, thanks, that's very nice of you. And it's sort of always there, but I haven't had any really like horrible experiences with it. It's kind of ever present in people's weird stares, and I do tend to try to, correct whenever someone says something insensitive, maybe that's the right word for it, I guess. So yeah, I think that's basically summed up my experience so far.
All right, thank you. First of all, Taryn, you can go, and then I'll talk about my experiences last.
Okay, so probably the first time the kind of like homophobic stuff was back in middle school because I was, so that's like sixth grade. I was fairly out, and a lot of the students, they were very judgy and mean and throwing lots of shade. But as time went on, I started to get a little bit more like less loud about being out. But it still hurts whenever I hear it, and I try my best to, fight back against it as I can.
It's like, just as a small question, has the hate, well, I'm gonna say hate, the homophobia that you experience, has it stopped you from being vocal about it, and has it made you feel uncomfortable around these people?
Well, in middle school, I kind of got more loud about it. And then throughout high school, it just kind of became like my sexuality just kind of became a part of me, and I didn't really feel the need to be like loud. Whenever I see it, it still just makes me feel super ill, like to my stomach. And yeah.
It's a horrible thing, the entire homophobia thing. So like, I can understand how it must have made you feel. So I'm just gonna quickly sum up my kind of experiences. So I wasn't very vocal about it with most people, but in school I was open, and we had some people that were very homophobic, also very racist and stuff like that. Especially in some classes, we had people who would literally say that all homosexuals should die, which is weird because we live in a huge city that is very accepting. So I was always surprised to actually be confronted with a lot of homophobia. And there's a lot of internalized homophobia in my family as well, especially my extended family, of people who would just sometimes are just stupid. Like my one uncle just asks dumb questions where it's just like, please just don't. But for most of the time, I don't get that much homophobia. I did get a lot of homophobia when I used to live in America. That was very bad. But nowadays it's fine. So that's very good. All right, we're gonna go over to our next topic. So if you would sum up, you all said that kind of you don't deal with it a lot anymore, except Ada, you sometimes deal with it. If you would give us like an estimation, if it's like that you deal with it like once a month or more or less, that would be very interesting. You can just go in the same order as last time.
Okay, so there's been a fair amount, like at least, I mean, once a month or worse, especially because Pride just happened, and this time we encountered like 2 or 3 people who were like, yeah, I don't get the point of Pride. And we had a chat with one of the women there who was like, what's the point of this? No, like straight people don't celebrate being straight. Why do you have to? And my sister just calmly explained, because there's still people getting bullied for who they are. And she was like, yeah, school's not a fun place. Don't be so weird about it. So it's definitely getting not better, to be honest. Like school was terrible, but the workplace isn't better. And like I'd say once or twice a month is like common here.
Yeah, I think I'd say like once a month, maybe less, depends, but I have the same experience as AJ. Because of Pride, I feel like it's a more current topic in many people's lives, and I've also encountered like the people who are saying like, "Oh, why isn't there a straight pride if there's a gay pride?" Which is wrong on so many levels because straight people aren't being bullied and killed and thrown into prison for being who they are, which is a whole nother topic. But yeah, I think for me it's not as much because I don't really, because I'm not in a relationship, and the only indication of me being not straight to other people is that I wear sort of gay bands on my wrist. So I don't think I deal with that much.
Yeah, I personally don't deal with it too much directed at me at the moment, but again, I'm also not in a queer relationship, so I deal with it passively at work because I work at a retail store. So you hear all those snide comments here and there. So, you know, a couple times a month probably. But I also live in Florida in the south of the US. So,
For me, it's God. Nowadays, I don't go outside much at the moment, so right now I'm not dealing with it as much. I used to deal with it a lot, especially when I'm in England and hanging around my family there. It's because my uncles are very out, and we are also like we go to gay pubs and all that kind of stuff. So you always get you get looks, you get snide comments, you get worse. I mean, in the US, it's definitely still bad, and there's still like when I was there, I noticed that the rise of Trump, if I can say it like that, because all dicks rise. It kind of I had the feeling that that made it worse for me personally, because I was in a very small town. So back
Mm.
then, I would deal with it every day, like constantly and like passive aggressively and not passive aggressively. But it's not great. And I was very sorry for everyone who had to live there all the time. So it's just yeah, it's a thing. And the next thing I was gonna ask you guys is how often you deal with like because that's like all homophobia in like real life, but how often you deal with homophobia, especially online or especially in like media, because I've seen there's a lot of homophobic media nowadays in like movies and TV shows, and I was just want to ask you guys if there was one like specific type of media or like a specific show or something where you really were just like, oh holy fuck, that's homophobic. Because I just had an experience like that, and I just wanted to ask if you guys felt like a little bit the same. So I'm just gonna give it off again to AJ first.
There's definitely been some moments, especially because I'm babysitting and they just watch pretty random TV stuff, and sometimes it's just like supposed to be silly movie, which is just downright either sexist, racist, or just homophobic as fuck, and it's so hard to like sit there and just watch, and I usually just try to talk to the boys afterwards. But it's such a normal thing in media that whenever you try to call this out, everyone around you is just like, "No, what do you mean? That's just how it's always been." And yeah, media is kind of a mess, to be honest.
Yeah, I definitely feel that as well. For me, I think the most homophobia that I'm exposed to would be because I'm studying politics and I'm quite interested in currently quite interested because I just did a seminar in American politics, and holy shit, American politics is like it's a huge dumpster fire for so many reasons, but specifically I tend to get like a whole picture about the media situation in America. I do tend to watch Fox News from time to time, which is just horrible. And there's so many things wrong with that, and it's honestly it's baffling to me that that is a thing that people watch out of their own free will, especially like Fox and Friends and everything. And it's there's in media there's so many instances of homophobia which is just blatant, but then also underlying homophobia, but also there's so many problems in like fictional parts of media like films and series with queer baiting and on actual representation. And you could like I could talk about queer baiting, for example, for hours and hours and end. So I feel like in media you can always find some form of homophobia somewhere. Same goes for racism and sexism.
so most of the media in the US is absolutely terrible there. And any of the social media feeds that people follow tend to be very tailored ad wise to force people to lean one way or another. And it's very dividing. And ugh, the news is just terrible.
Yeah, the entire thing about news in America is it's a mess. For me, I never really noticed a lot of homophobia in a lot of movies and stuff until I rewatched movies when I was in my last year of high school. I wrote a thing about like homophobia in especially like young kids entertainment, because we had to write something about something we care about. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. And for me, it was always just like I noticed a lot of Disney villains were based off of cheap gay stereotypes of like the sassy, dramatic kind of gay voice that they like. That's what they said once, that they would cast as a gay voice thing. Especially like LeFou is very, very heavy on me personally, because it's like, especially like Hades from Hercules is a very queer coded villain. But that was just like one of those things that was just very strongly gay coded, and it's just weird. But especially with a lot of people nowadays, that when Disney even thinks about making like a gay princess or stuff like that, and then people get so extremely riled up about it, I just get angry because there's so many small kids that are gay, and they only see themselves represented in media as the villain all the time. And I know that that definitely hurt me personally, in a bad way. Exactly. And what Luna just wonderfully said in our group chat is that straight kids only see gays as villains. And if you then have a family who's homophobic and will push it onto you, then it's very, very hard for homophobic kids. It's not as hard for gay as for homophobic kids, especially, to, be open about it, because they're just ignorant. But it's very hard for them to get out of it as well when you grew up in a homophobic family.
When you were talking about Disney villains being queer coded, I like a while ago I was at a panel discussing how many people in it, like there's many instances of asexual people being portrayed as the villain, which is so wrong on so many levels. And you have like there's this stereotype of people who don't really enjoy or do not want to have sex necessarily is coded with some form of being a psychopath, which I think is just it's absolutely disgusting. And but it's a trend that you can definitely notice. Like I don't remember any like actual examples, but there was like talk about Sherlock Holmes, who isn't necessarily portrayed to be into, the sexual aspect or just any aspect of a romantic relationship, but that's debatable. But in Sherlock, he's a psychopath. No, he's a sociopath, and this happens for a lot of like asexual people that, or in media, that have that connotation of asexuality being synonymous with being a sociopath or psychopath, which is so destructive for anyone who feels that way as a kid or just as a general person, because movies and fictional characters have such an important influence on young people's minds.
Absolutely. And what I also noticed as a bisexual person, that a lot of times in media, the bisexual people are always kind of portrayed exactly how we aren't. Like the entire thing of they'll cheat on you, they'll just leave you for another gender. Especially, even though I like Rent a lot, is that there's one bisexual character in it, and she's the one that cheats and all that kind of stuff. And it just, especially for like pansexual and bisexual people, it's so bad, because you are greeted with so much biphobia and panphobia every single day, especially when it comes to dating, even in the community. So it's just so bad that like TV shows and movies will use that and make it like just use it. And then there's like another fucking thing with all those like old TV shows that are being loved and loved and loved again, is like, for example, Friends. It's like it's a fun show,
Mm.
but there's so many problematic moments in it, and there's just so much where I'm just like, oh, where I just like, then I have to stop and I just can't enjoy it at all, because there's just some things that are just so bad. But AJ, please start about trans people's portrayal in media, because that is a very good topic that we are very, very inclined to talk about.
Okay, so I think the obvious direction to go is the upcoming movie Adam, because I'm so angry about this fucking movie. For anyone who doesn't know what it's about a cis man who watches his lesbian sister having sex and decides to act as a trans person to get lesbians to have sex with him.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
What the fuck?
Just this entire thing is just wrong on so many levels. And not only that, he proceeds to sleep with a lesbian who did not consent.
What the
So
fuck?
it also romanticizes rape, and it draws such bad lighting to, like, again, trans representation. Like, I've had my family say stuff like, but there is representation, and it's always like weird representation. It's never a positive thing. Like, when representation makes you say, oh, they're more likely to cheat, it's not representation.
That's
It's
just
done
slander.
wrong.
That's just slander
Yeah,
at that point.
exactly.
Yeah.
And that happens so much that, like, I've in the past too, I can't remember exactly what times, but I've been so scared of being portrayed as a weird person just because of what media did, and not just the people in my life. No, media and how they portray people, because people watch it and most of them don't think about it too much because it doesn't apply to them, but it does apply to us, and it hurts and it influences everything. And, like, that's another point of internalized homo and transphobia too. Like, it was so hard coming to terms with that.
Yeah, I think especially like internalized transphobia and homophobia is a big thing that isn't talked about enough. It's such a giant problematic thing that people tend to ignore because they're just like, yeah, but I'll just laugh at these jokes and not think about them or think them through. And then there's a lot of jokes, especially by comedians, about trans people or gay people. And when you sit there and you see your friends laugh, it's so bad. It's so bad. And the worst feeling in the world when you have the feeling that even around your friends or family, you can't even be open. And then there's media that shows you that you can't because they'll judge you. But what I also wanted to say about media is also that trope that the gay couple dies. It's so bad. It's so bad. But if anyone wants to talk about that, they can, because that's a thing I would like to talk about as well.
Yes. Okay, so there's a show that I absolutely used to adore and love, and there's so many problems with it. It's Voltron Legendary Defender on Netflix. And the first like 2 or 3 seasons were fantastic, then it just went down rabbit hole and just turned into shit. Absolute bullshit, because they announced this huge, oh, it's going to be LGBTQ plus representation and everything. And the thing is that one of the main characters, Shiro, he, for anyone who's not familiar with the show, he had he had a boyfriend on Earth, and then he was kidnapped by aliens, and then some shit happened, and he stayed very, very far away from Earth in space. And he was also he was always very, like, he was always gay from the beginning, but we never got to see his lover. But then they, for season 7, they did like a very, very big thing of, oh yes, we're going to see Shiro's boyfriend, and everyone was very excited about that. But it ended up being just that they showed him like for like 2 minutes, then he died, and then Shiro got exactly 30 seconds of grieving time, and then he just never mentioned Adam, his boyfriend, again, ever. And then in the end, spoiler alert for the series, he just got this random fucking guy to marry him that we'd never really met before, and we didn't know anything about him, and they called that representation, and I'm still so mad about that because that's bullshit. And that's exactly what's wrong with that the gays die at the end trope. Because
Sorry, but I'm so fucking glad that I didn't finish Voltron right now. Because I watched it.
be
I watched the
glad.
show. Because and I noticed the queer baiting was high in that one, but it was just oof. And also, I mean, thing we can talk about as well, Avengers Endgame. That entire thing of, yes, we finally included a gay person. I read that article after I watched it, and I couldn't, like, the second I walked out of the movie theater, I couldn't remember who the gay person was.
Same. Oh my god.
I had to watch that movie like 3 times to find that fucking gay person because it's such insignificant.
Yeah, it's just random was it Joe Russo? I don't care. If that's the representation we're getting, we don't even see anyone on screen. Like, it's just a chat about the date he had, and I completely missed the point because it was such an like it wasn't even a necessary scene or anything, and they just pat themselves on the back for queer representation. That's not representation. That's like, oh, we have to include something to make the gays happy after we promised them we have LGBT characters in our movies.
That whole scene it's just so frustrating because, yeah, I totally agree. It was unnecessary. And then there's the whole girl power scene, which was not written well at all.
Especially, it's like the worst thing I think was about that chat part in the fucking therapy department was that one of the that Russo brothers had the audacity to play the first gay character and then pat
Yes.
himself on the back for writing two fucking things. It felt like this. It was just like normal talk. Yes, I'm gonna see him. Complete look into the camera again. And I was like, well, why don't you just suck a dick on camera? That would be less subtle, for fuck's sake. It was so bad. Oh, God. Cast queer actors. Cast trans actors. That's what makes me angry as well. It's like they will be like, yes, but we got trans representation. And they fucking cast some dude when there's so many trans actors who are amazing but don't get work because they fucking trans. And then they're like, yeah, but we have a character that's trans, but we can't actually cast a trans person because that wouldn't be right representation. I'm like, what the fuck, man? How is that not right representation? I don't understand these fucking producers and all their garbage. I'm sorry, I'm really angry about that.
The thing is that, in my opinion, representation is when you have a fucking normal person who happens to be gay, trans, asexual, bisexual, pansexual, gender fluid, whatever the fuck, and it's not the main point, and it's not used as a fucking selling point, and it should be completely normal that a random main character can be gay or straight or bisexual or whatever the fuck trans. It should just be a normal thing, and I don't understand why no one does representation accordingly. It makes me so angry.
Another thing that just drives me off up the wall is just if there is representation and they manage to still fuck up somehow. Like one example is not One Day at a Time. One Day at a Time is wonderful representation. I love this show with all my heart, but
Same.
the German dubs fucked up Sid's pronouns. So Sid goes by essentially a version of they them in German, but after the episode about the pronouns, Sid suddenly goes by she, her for some goddamn reason.
Oh my fucking
Because
God.
it's apparently easier to translate or something, but I don't care. There are gender neutral pronouns in German. They could have used them, but they didn't. And Modern Family. There's a gay couple, Cameron and Mitchell, and Mitchell is played by a gay actor. Cameron is not, and Cameron is the obnoxious one. So my family also really likes this show, so we watch it together sometimes, but mostly like my parents. And my mother is convinced that every gay person on this planet talks like Cameron, and every gay person is just this dramatic, even though he's literally the character played by an actor who's not part of the LGBTQ community. When Mitchell is, and Mitchell is not at all like Cameron is.
Yeah, I get that. That one pisses me off as well. I mean, yes, there are flamboyant gays, but there's also flamboyant straights. Like, I don't understand why that is like such a big trope because it makes me angry a lot. One thing that also pisses me off is things like Glee or something like that when they have
Oh god.
giant fucking casts. I've never watched Glee, but I know that there's like a giant cast of all straight people basically, and then there's like two gays. And also it's just when they normally a lot of times they will put in like one gay person and tap them on the back themselves on the back, but then they make the one gay person like completely and terribly either stereotypical or they will just punish them the entire show. Like it's never there's almost never a happy gay person in a show when it's when it involves either teenage drama or things like that, it's always they have to be, first of all, they can never have, male friends if they're male, like a gay man. They always have to just have girlfriends. And then when something good happens to them, it happens in like one small episode, and the next moment it's bad again. And I was just like, why the fuck do you need to do that? Like, I just
I it's always, I feel like, especially gay men, because I feel like they do get sort of the most represented, which is I don't want to say that like for everything, but I feel like gay men mostly get represented as the gay best friend trope, which is just I can't even start talking about why that is such a big problem, because that's just it gets fetishized by so many, especially straight girls, and I've had like girlfriends, like girl friends over the years who were like, "Oh my God, yes, I'd love a gay best friend," and I'm like, "Holy shit, you know how many things are wrong with that statement? It's there's so many things wrong with that."
Yeah, I had a few friends over the course of my life that tried to push some of my other friends into like we have one friend who he is gay, yes, but they before he even outed himself, they were just like, "Oh, I wish he's gay. I wish he's gay so I can have a gay best friend." But these people would always be the ones where it's just like you talk to them and you out yourself as a girl, and they're like, "Oh, okay."
Yes,
and
exactly.
and then you just feel like, the fuck? Because it's just like they're like, oh yeah, I want a gay best friend, oh my god, and then they fetishize it in that weird way. It's like, yeah, then we'll go shopping together and he can tell me what looks good on me, and I'm like, love, I don't want to say it like this, but it's like, not every single gay person is like the things you see on telly, and that is exactly the problem, because we only see one
Mm.
specific type of gay man on television, and we see one specific type of lesbian normally, and that's just problematic.
Stereotypes in general are problematic. Ugh.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's get back on topic, I think. Because I think we talk a lot about movies and media, and I think that was supposed to be a different episode, but we can still make that a different episode, because there's a lot more. One thing that I just wanted to quickly talk about is, with a lot of alt-right things coming up in especially politics, with Trump, with Boris Johnson, with Nigel Farage, with the AfD in Germany, there is a rise in homophobia at the moment, especially in countries in Europe without same-sex marriage. And I know that there is also in America, where some states wanted to delegalize same-sex marriage again because they are very stupid. But I just wanted to ask, how do you guys, like, have you noticed an increase in homophobia around you guys, like around you or on in the media in the last time, especially with like this alt-right thing happening again? How about you, Lou? Start.
Well, in my immediate surroundings, there aren't necessarily any people that I'd consider being part of alt-right movements, but I think in my extended family, I have kind of noticed it. It was always sort of the way that, that it was this don't ask, don't tell sort of culture, which is just bad. But I'm not out to my extended family, and I don't think I will be in the near future, especially to my grandparents, because they're very traditional. And I feel like it has been sort of a trend, especially with my one grandparents and my one grandfather, who's a bit of a knob. He Well, with the alt-right movement happening here in Germany and all over the world, the topic of homophobia, it kind of goes along with the whole, like, it's always mixed with like sexism and racism and like migrants coming here to steal our jobs, which is, yeah. So I have sort of noticed an increase in that, but we in our family would just try to stay away from that topic, because we know that we can't change his mind. That's just the way he is, and he's too old to change. At least that's what we sort of decided on. So I think that's the most that I noticed it.
I think maybe, thank you, first of all. And I think maybe Taryn, you can go on, and after that, AJ, you can go if you want to.
Okay, so with the whole alt-right thing, felt more and more okay to be homophobic towards other people. Not necessarily in my specific location, but just America as a whole. But I mean, my family, they were not really the most conservative, but they were definitely more on that side until one of my friends actually started transitioning. They never had to deal with the idea of trans rights or anything like that. And at first it shook them, but then they realized this is the exact same person. So why are we getting so upset? Their minds got changed, but unfortunately, the rest of the country in general is leaning way too far, hard to come back from. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, that's kind of the entire thing. I think that most people don't realize is that they're still the same person. They're just the one that they feel most comfortable. Like that they're just them now. This is who they were the entire time when they start transitioning. It's like this is what they are.
God, yes. The person that started transitioning in my friend group, they just seem so much more them now, and it is absolutely fantastic to see him flourishing as he is, and I love him even more for it, you know?
I definitely saw more radical people after the vote and stuff. And I had people openly tell me that they support the Germany's right-wing parties and think that what they do is good. But I also had people like that back in school, which is quite a while from where we're now, and they use it as an like the spike in radicalism, they use it as an excuse to openly be hateful towards people, and sadly that does happen in my surroundings as well. But since I'm very closeted, I don't get that much hate myself. It's just when someone stumbles over anything on the internet, it's more of that than just stuff directed me personally. And I get very protective over my friends and people I know, and even people on the media. If I'm talking to people I know, like if it's my family, I'm going to call them out for their bullshit. That's just how it is. And even if it's someone I don't feel like they're gonna be intimidating or threaten me, I'm definitely going to call them out on their bullshit as well. So if there's someone saying something and I know them, I'm correcting them, because your hatefulness does not get excused by hateful parties.
I think there's
Exactly.
there's a German word for that, which he just described that with the rise of the alt-right, it's called salonfähig machen, which basically means that it's okay to talk about this sort of thing now in a more sophisticated setting, which I think is a huge problem because people feel like it's okay to say all these hateful and homophobic, sexist, racist things, and it's worrying, I'd say.
Absolutely. It's terribly worrying. For me, it's like I have a family member, sadly, that is in the AfD, which is one of the worst things that I think happened to me in the last time, honestly, because he talks just to rile you up, which is like the worst thing. It's like you can't even discuss things with him or debate the stuff with him because he just doesn't he's not going to change his mind. And that is like what I'm always worried about is like my family or like my brother or my smaller cousins, what if they get pulled into his entire bullshit? And I just remember one time when he was just talking his sexist and homophobic bullshit, it's just that he said something about hating lesbians, and I was just like, what, because they get more pussy than you or what? Like I just can't. The thing is like I'm so tired. I'm like 20 and I'm too tired to fight. And that is, I think, a thing that should never happen is that you get too tired to fight. That's why I still do. I still like try to fight him at any point of time that I can. And especially strangers. I don't give a shit about strangers. It's like when a stranger's being homophobic, I will fucking call their ass out of it on it, and it has brought me into situations where I did get hurt, but at the same time I don't give a shit because I will stand back up, and if they if they want to beat me up again, fucking do it. This time I'll be prepared. That's just kind of my entire spiel.
I mean, for me, you guys obviously have seen like people standing outside of like conventions and outside of clubs and stuff with their whole like Jesus rah rah signs. Not saying that religion's bad, but just those people. One night I was there with just a female friend of mine, and this guy is just going off, and it's like, you know what? I just kind of looked at her, and she's just like, okay, let's do this, and made out very aggressively in front of him. Everybody else cheered and then freaked the fuck out. But oh my god, it was so satisfying to see him get so mad.
That's
Oh,
iconic.
that
Oh
is
my god.
iconic, yeah. I mean, we gladly don't have that much stuff happening here in Germany. When on my way to St. Paul's Cathedral every single year when I'm in London, there's like very, very religious people trying to be like, Jesus will save you, Jesus loves you, and all that kind of fucking garbage. And they will look at you when you walk around with another girl and like hold your hands and stuff. And it's just they're always just like Jesus loves you and all that shit. And then the second you are a little bit homosexual, they're just like, yeah, you can't go to heaven and you'll die, you'll go to hell. And I'm always just like, but if Jesus loves me for whatever the fuck I am, if he died for my sins, all that kind of jazz that they always say, why the fuck would he care what I bone at night? Like, oh, that was like the thing I got in America is just most of that was just like, but I mean, you're here to reproduce. I was like, am I? Am I really here to reproduce? Is that my entire purpose in life and not being, happy and stuff like that? And they just, oh God, I could go on about this all day.
I mean, the planet's already way too overpopulated, so they should be saying,
Yeah, we're doing them a favor. And I mean, if you hate homosexual people because they don't reproduce, what are you saying to people who just can't conceive children? Are they just because they are the way they are? Is it just as bad, or you know,
Yeah,
it honestly doesn't make any sense to me.
it doesn't. There's a wonderful song by Bo Burnham called "From God's Perspective," and in it he sings, "I send gays to fix overpopulation," and it's like, boy, did that go well. It's a very good song if you ever want to listen to it. In the end, we kind of just try to give you guys, the listeners, some kind of advice on maybe how to deal with homophobia, especially when it comes from family, or something that will make them smile. And I think maybe you, Lou, can start because you always say very wholesome things.
To people that deal with homophobia, well, I can't. There's no really going. There's not really going to be a way for me to say something that is going to completely help you out of your bad situation. And I feel very sorry that it is that way. But just know that whatever situation you are in, you are loved and you are completely valid. It is a horrible, horrible thing that you have to deal with such horrible things, be it homophobia, transphobia, biphobia, panphobia. I could go on, and you deserve so much better. But as someone who's, been through her fair share of bullshit in life, it does get better. And as soon as you meet people that have been through the same things or that are in the community as well, you will feel more at home.
All right. Thank you. Lou, that was lovely as always. AJ, if you want to go on, that would be amazing.
I just want you guys to know that you did nothing to deserve this. It is not your fault. You did nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with you, and you don't need any fixing, especially coming from an unsupportive family. You might have days where you feel like if you were different, if you didn't need any fixing, maybe your family would love you. The thing is that that's not about who you are, that's them being selfish. And you're going to find people in your life that are going to appreciate every single part of you. It's not about blood, it's about how you feel. And seriously, it's not your fault. You're fine the way you are, and you are loved, and you have a place in this world. It might be like random strangers on the internet, just like the wholesome group you're currently listening to. But that's completely fine, and you're going to be loved, and you are loved.
All right, AJ's gonna make me fucking cry. That's fine.
Same.
Taryn, how about you say some soft stuff and then I'll do the ending.
I'm gonna be super cliche, but there's this fantastic quote in some wonderful book that I had read that went kind of like this: "This above all, to thine own self be true." And that rings true to the core. Be yourself and be you and flourish and be awesome and amazing.
That was very well. That was wonderful. I got really excited when you said that. For me, I just want you guys to know out there, especially when you aren't in a supportive family, or if you have problems with friends or school, there's always shit happening. I just want you to know that there are people out there that are just waiting to love you, because I think that's a big thing for a lot of us, is that a lot of people have the feeling that they'll never be loved or never find people that can be open and themselves with. But I can assure you from this day and every single day that there will be people that will love you. And you are, like AJ said, you are not wrong. You are wonderful, and you are just as like you are beautiful. But never have the feeling that you need to change for anyone except for yourself, because going on is always great. But going on for someone else doesn't work, because then you just walk in the wrong direction. And if you have problems, if you feel sad, if you have the feeling that you can't go on, please never ever have the feeling that you can't reach out, because you can. We are always in a safe haven for everyone who is struggling. You can come in and tweet at us if you want to. You can yell at us all day. I don't care, because we are here to support you at any moment. We're going to put all our social medias not just in the description, but I think we should just go around, and everyone who wants to say their social media things can. I'm just going to start. We are, as a group, we can be found at a Queercast on Twitter, and Cast Queer on Instagram. And you can find me personally at Just Things TBH on Twitter. Blue, you can go on.
I can be found, and my personal Twitter is Looniverse with 1, 2, 3 U's. So yeah, it's going to be in the description as well.
AJ?
Yeah, you can definitely contact all of us. We get all your messages through through our Twitter handle, but also I'm at AJ Alive, AJAY and Alive on pretty much everything, Instagram, Twitter, and you can always contact me.
Fem on Twitter, and feel free to ask me any questions, or if you're looking for advice or just someone to listen to. I might be really awkward, but I'm more than happy to help.
She's wonderful. Don't believe her. You can also contact at Little Dragon Luna on Twitter. That is one person who's not here right now, but she's always open for some questions and some conversations. And just as always, please remember that you're loved. If you don't feel it right now in your family, if you don't feel it right now in your complete surroundings, just remember that we love you and that we're happy that you're here. And someday there will be someone that will love you so much that you can't even imagine that you had the feeling that someone wasn't going to love you one day. And we hope that this episode was wonderful, and we hope we made you smile, and we hope you'll listen again.